What happens if you build $1,000 a month in AI income for 20 years? Let me ask you a different kind of question today. Not how do I make more money, not what's the fastest way to catch up, but something quieter, and, in many ways, more important. What actually happens if you build an extra $1,000 per month and sustain it for the next 20 years? Let's slow that down. Not $10,000 per month. Not replacing your full-time income overnight. Just $1,000. Consistent, predictable, built through a structured system. Now I want you to pause for a moment, because this is where most people underestimate the impact. We tend to dismiss smaller numbers, especially when we feel behind. We think, $1,000 isn't enough to change anything. But is that actually true? Or is that a reaction, driven by urgency? Think about your current situation. What would an additional $1,000 per month actually do? Would it reduce pressure? Cover key expenses? Allow you to invest more consistently? And here's the deeper question. What if that $1,000 wasn't temporary? What if it became a stable second stream, running quietly alongside your primary income? Let's take a breath here. Because we're not talking about a quick win. We're talking about a long-term system. Something that compounds, not just financially, but psychologically. It changes how you make decisions, how you think about time, how you approach retirement. So in this video, we're going to walk through a simulation, not a fantasy. A grounded, conservative look at what happens when you build and maintain a $1,000 per month AI-powered income stream over 20 years. And more importantly, what kind of system would actually make that possible? Most financial advice focuses on large, long-term numbers. Retirement targets, portfolio sizes, withdrawal rates, and those numbers matter. But there's a hidden challenge. When you're in your 40s or 50s, those large targets can feel distant and sometimes overwhelming. Let's slow this down. If someone tells you that you need, for example, $1 million or more for retirement, your mind naturally asks, how do I get there from where I am right now? And often, there isn't a clear answer. So what happens? You either lean heavily on market returns, or you feel like you need to dramatically increase your income. Both paths can feel uncertain. Now here's where a different approach becomes useful. Instead of focusing only on the end number, you focus on building additional monthly capacity. Steady, repeatable income that can be directed intentionally. Think about it this way. Retirement isn't just about how much you have. It's also about how much you can generate and sustain. And this is where AI-based systems enter the conversation. Not as a replacement for investing, but as a complement. A second layer. Let's slow that down again. You're not abandoning traditional strategies. You're reinforcing them with something more controllable. Something that doesn't rely entirely on market timing. So instead of asking, how do I reach a large number someday, you start asking, what can I build that produces consistent monthly income, starting within the next 6 to 12 months? That shift changes everything. So let's introduce a framework for thinking about this simulation. I call it the layered income timeline, and it's built on a simple principle: small, consistent income streams, when sustained over long periods, create disproportionate impact. Let's slow that down. The key variables here are not just the amount, but the consistency and the duration. $1,000 per month for 1 year is helpful, but $1,000 per month for 20 years becomes something entirely different. Now here's why this framework works. Because it aligns with reality. It doesn't assume explosive growth. It doesn't rely on perfect conditions. It assumes something much more practical. You build a system gradually, you stabilize it, and you maintain it over time. Think about it this way. Instead of chasing large, unpredictable outcomes, you're constructing a reliable layer of income that you can direct strategically. That layer can be used in different ways. It can support your current lifestyle. It can reduce financial stress, or it can be reinvested. And that's where the long-term impact begins to multiply. Now in this simulation, We're going to keep the assumptions conservative. We're not going to assume rapid growth. We're not going to assume perfect consistency. We're simply going to explore what happens when a modest system is built and maintained over time. Let's walk through this carefully. Step 1 is building the initial system that generates the $1,000 per month. Now this doesn't happen instantly. It may take 6 months, maybe 12 months to reach that level. And that's important to acknowledge, because the timeline matters. So let's assume that within the first year, you build a small, structured AI-supported system. Something that produces value consistently. It could be educational content, digital resources, simple services. The exact format matters less than the structure. What matters is that it produces repeatable income. Now once that system reaches $1,000 per month, step 2 is stabilization. Let's slow this down. Instead of immediately trying to scale aggressively, you focus on consistency, maintaining output, improving clarity, strengthening the connection with your audience. Because a stable system is far more valuable than a volatile one. Now step 3 introduces an important decision. What do you do with that $1,000 per month? There are a few possibilities. You could use it for current expenses. You could reduce debt. Or you could reinvest it. For this simulation, let's focus on reinvestment. Not aggressively, but consistently. Let's say that $1,000 per month, or $12,000 per year, is invested into a diversified portfolio. Now we're not assuming high returns. We'll use a conservative average, around 6% annually. And here's where things start to become interesting. Over time, those contributions compound. But let's slow down again. Because this isn't just about investment growth. There's another layer. While that $1,000 is being invested, your underlying system still exists. It's still producing income. So you're not drawing from your investments. You're adding to them, year after year. Now step 4 is maintaining the system over the long term. This is where discipline becomes important. Not intensity, consistency. You continue producing value. You refine your process. You adapt when needed. But you don't abandon the system, because the real impact comes from duration. Now let's bring this together. You have a system generating $1,000 per month. Consistent annual investments of $12,000. A conservative growth rate. And you maintain this for 20 years. That's the simulation we're exploring. So what does this actually look like in numbers? Let's walk through it slowly. Over 20 years, you contribute $12,000 per year. That's a total of $240,000 in contributions. Now with a 6% average annual return, that investment account could grow to approximately $440,000 to $480,000. Let's pause there. That's not a projection based on aggressive assumptions. That's built on consistency. Now let's layer in another perspective. That $240,000 didn't come from your primary income. It came from a second system. Something you built and maintained. Now think about the psychological impact. Instead of feeling like you're trying to catch up, you're actively building a second track. And over time, that track becomes meaningful. Now let's take it one step further. If that system continues beyond 20 years, or if it grows modestly over time, the numbers improve. But even without growth, even with stability, the outcome is significant. Because it's not just about the total. It's about what that total represents. Optionality, reduced pressure, greater flexibility in retirement decisions. Now it's important to ground this in reality. Because maintaining a system for 20 years requires commitment. There will be periods of low motivation. Moments where results feel flat. Times where you question whether it's worth continuing. That's part of the process. Let's slow this down. The success of this model doesn't come from intensity. It comes from persistence. Showing up, even when progress feels slow. Making small improvements over time. And allowing the system to mature. There will also be variability. Some months may exceed $1,000. Others may fall short. That's normal. The goal is not perfection. It's stability over time. So what happens if you build $1,000 per month and sustain it for 20 years? You don't just create additional income. You create a second financial structure, one that supports your primary efforts instead of replacing them. Let's slow this down one final time. You're not relying on a single path. You're building layers, and those layers create resilience. They give you options, they reduce pressure, and they shift how you think about the future. So instead of asking, is $1,000 per month enough to matter? Try asking, what would my life look like if I built a system that quietly generated it every month for the next 20 years? Because when you think in those terms, the goal becomes clearer. Not faster, but steadier. And in many cases, that's exactly what moves you forward.